Hey friends, Dawn here, welcoming you to the Soul Goals podcast and year number 3. This year, we are diving into expanding our perspectives, challenging our belief systems, and working the mental and emotional muscles of our souls. Though still all about growth and connection, this year finds opportunities to hear from people in our communities that have walked a path that might be different from our own, but that ultimately present us with the chance to look at a subject in a different light and learn other ways we could approach challenges in our own world. Let's get to it. Hi guys, Dawn here with the Soul Goals podcast. If you're watching this, you're going to notice I'm not in my home studio. I'm actually on vacation for the next 2 weeks, but I didn't want to leave you hanging. So we're going to do some fun replays of a couple of the episodes that you guys love the most as per the numbers. Specifically, week number 1, the most downloaded episode we had so far this season, this year, has been with Sister Katie Flanigan of the Salesian Sisters, where we talk about presence and connection, something near and dear to my heart, something I strive for and I work at every day. Got to wake up, make that choice, make that intention. And Sister Katie is an amazing example of that. She also shares her story, if you haven't heard it yet, about how she came to become a sister with the Salesian Sisters. It's intriguing, it's full of so much vulnerability, and it's really something we can all relate to, honestly. So if you've heard it before, press the replay. And if you haven't heard it, you're going to be in for such a treat, such a wonderful conversation. So check it out. Week number 1, let's hit the replay on Sister Katie Flanigan's conversation about presence and connection. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Soul Goals podcast. My name is Dawn, and guys, I am pumped for today's episode. Oh my goodness. We have Sister Katie from the Salesian Sisters with us today, and she's going to speak to us on the subject of presence and connection, something that the Soul Goals platform believes deeply in and is rooted deeply in. And Sister Katie, before we hit the record, I was in tears. You can tell everybody. I'm so thankful for you giving us this time and attention to talk about a lot of different things. Let's talk about your path to where you are now in your faith walk and your spirituality. Let's talk about the Salesian Sisters as a whole and what that group is and the mission of what you're doing. And before I get into that, though, I want to let everybody know, this is interesting. In 2015, my husband and I were sitting over there in that living room watching a 60 Minutes program. And he paused the TV. He's like, come over and see this. They're talking about this program with the Salesian Sisters in North Haledon, New Jersey, and it's called Adopt a Sister. And I went, what? So we sat down and watched it. And I want to say it was Sister Mary that was on the 60 Minute program,
yes.
right?
Yes.
Yeah. And so Sister Mary recently passed away the end of 2025, just very recent. So I want to speak a little bit about her impact with you as well when we get to that point.
Yeah.
But I was so taken aback, and I was not raised Catholic, but my husband was. Our kids are Catholic, went to Catholic schools all through their elementary and high school. And the foundation that laid for them is so incredible. And so immediately I was like, where do we sign up for Adopt a Sister and what does that mean? Right? So basically the Adopt a Sister program, which is still happening within the Salesian Sisters community, is donating to their mission. And it's adopting a sister that prays for you regularly, that intends for you regularly. And I'm just saying, I'm so, Betty Ann Martinez is our sister, and she has been since 2015. And I think maybe some people might go, oh, it's kind of hokey. Can you really feel that? Do you really believe that? Do you believe that they're doing that? But I mean, yes, we are called to have faith in this world. And there's so many challenges that we encounter anyway. And I want you to speak to that too. As a sister, the challenges are relatable. Just because you're walking in this path and this is your mission and this is your career, if you will,
right,
you still have struggles along the way. So
amen.
All that being said, amen, sister. Yeah. Amen. And so all that being said, Sister Katie, welcome.
Yay. Thank
Yay.
you so much for having me. I was so excited when I got your email, pitching the idea coming to just chat and share a little bit about what we do. And thank you for the opportunity. I know when growing up, I grew up Catholic, but I didn't know sisters. And so even to hear Salesian Sisters, like, what is that? Like, I've never heard
Right.
that. So to any opportunity we can have to share about who we are and the work that we do, we're very excited to. So thank you.
Absolutely. And so it stands to say right here that the Salesian Sisters, it's actually the Daughters of Mary, Help of Christians. That's
Mhm.
kind of where it was founded in. Over 10,000 Salesian Sisters worldwide. Is that correct?
Yes, we are actually the largest female religious order in the world that's
Oh my
under
God.
one superior. So, in the United States, we're probably about just around 200 sisters, but yeah, worldwide, we're about 10,000 and a powerhouse. That's what I say.
Right. And I'm thinking that like there's just 200 of you in the United States, but the mountains that you're moving with the work that you do. And let's just talk for a second. You're cultivating community. So you're working
Mhm.
with underprivileged youth, and you do that through youth centers, through camps, through young adult ministries. And I love this. This is a big piece for me. Character, faith, and social responsibility.
Yes, yes.
Character, faith, and social responsibility. Those are such monumental pieces, I believe, for our young people and like hey, even a 50-year-old. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Character, faith, and social responsibility all day long. And I
Yeah.
think that's your like that's one of the foundation. Well, that's not one of that is the kind of bedrock of what
Yes.
you're following each day.
Yeah. St. John Bosco, who was our founder, said, we want to help young people to become good Christians and honest citizens. So it's the shaping the whole person. So
Mhm.
yes, of course the instruction of faith is vital to us, but it's also how do you then live as a good and faith-filled person that's
Mhm.
contributing to society in a productive way and in a way that brings the hope of Christ into the world. And that's what's great about our Salesian environments with young people. It's not just, I think a lot of people have stereotypes about sisters and nuns,
Mhm.
right? About sit up
Absolutely.
straight, if you're misbehaving, they're gonna hit you with the ruler. And
Mhm.
thank God that was never really the way that our sisters operated. It's not our style, it's not our charism, but because our way of educating young people is the whole person. So knowing kids need to run, they need to make noise, they need to have outlets for their energy. And if we use that well, they're learning. um,
Right, right.
so yeah, there's a way of educating and shaping the whole person.
Mhm. Yeah,
That's
I love
that's
that.
what we do.
Shaping the whole person, how it's how you live. And then let's take that a step further. If we're talking about being present and connected, I think that's a really huge piece for that.
Hmm.
Being present and if I think about the sisterhood in general, and I know we talked about scheduling this, and you're like, we have morning prayers and we have evening prayers. So we're working around your schedule with all of that. And
Hmm.
I really think that that bears mentioning the fact that being present in that capacity by intending that, and let's just to be fair, this is your life, this is what you've chosen to do, so this is part of your daily job and your daily walk, right?
Right.
But for people that are not in that profession, that intention to sit with it with for a period of time, whether it's once a day, whether it's twice a day, whether it's 2 minutes, whether it's 2 hours, I
Hmm.
think it's super important. And I feel like with the institution of creating and shaping that young person and really allowing them to step into who they are, that presence is a big piece for what you're teaching them as well.
Yes, absolutely. We part of the method of the way that we work with young people, but we also use it like with each other as sisters, um, is this way we call it's accompaniment. Um, and accompaniment, like in the Catholic world right now, it's kind of becoming a buzzword, but
Mhm.
in the Salesian world, we're like, we've been talking about this for 150 years. Like
Yeah.
we were ahead of the game. But
Yeah.
this idea of like when I was a teacher in a classroom, the best way for me to know what my kids needed was to be among them. So in the midst of, even when they were at recess or they had the free time, it was, I'm there with them. I'm not standing
Mm,
along the, the fence talking with other teachers. I mean, sometimes it happens. You have to, right? But for the most part, as they're playing, as they're hanging out, as they have free time, I'm right there in the midst because that's how I know what's going on.
yeah.
And then that's when you can kind of, in like these informal settings, you can reinforce maybe what the kid needs. Like they need a little word of encouragement or they need a little word of correction. You're like,
Hmm.
but it's not so intimidating because you're there among them, and it's a way to be able to say, hey, you know what? Earlier today, like you were running your mouth a little bit. You need to lock that up, okay?
Hmm.
And then it's done in a way that it's not humiliating, it's not intimidating, it's not. And I just also think of how Don Bosco would say, he said, love what the young love, and they will love what
Mm,
you love. And so that idea of like just being among what they're doing, it's a way to win their hearts, you
yeah.
know? And we do it as sisters too. Like there's built into our schedule, yes, those times of prayer, but even a time of, it's in our rule of life that we have recreation together, that we play together. And some nights you don't want to, right? Some nights you're tired
Hmm.
and you're like, I don't really want to sit and play a board game right now. But it's those moments that it builds this stronger connection that underlies everything else
Yeah.
that you're doing.
And that's what I hear you saying within all of that. It's about connection.
Hmm.
It's about connection. And that's such a big piece because that's where I think we meet people through that connection. When we're, I love it, being among them, being
Yeah.
among one another, connecting. And then it goes back to, it piggybacks on the fact of intention. Like, and I love what you said. Sometimes you don't feel like doing it, but what will the outcome result in for everyone by
Yes.
plugging in? I actually had this conversation with my freshman in college yesterday. I was like, what are you doing tonight? Are you plugging into your community? Are you doing, like, you have to plug it in? She's like, I have this, I have this, I have this, and I'm really tired. And I'm like, I think it's important to try to plug in. And she called me afterwards. It was a Fellowship of Christian Athletes, by the way.
Ah, yeah,
And
yeah.
yeah, and she said, she actually FaceTimed me and she was like, okay, here's a huge, God wink, a God dropped in my lap. And we had been talking earlier that day about a phrase, and the leader at FCA said the exact same phrase.
Look at
And she was
that.
like, okay, all right. Yeah,
God
we
is
have to
there.
plug in. Yes, God is
Yeah.
there. God is there. Let's back up for a minute and talk about your personal story, because I know you
Okay.
said you're not in the classroom anymore, but before you became Sister Katie,
Hmm.
you were a teacher, but an elementary school teacher. Is that correct?
Yes. Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
So I, from the time I was young, growing up, I always knew I wanted to work with kids. That was I've always had that desire and really to be a teacher. So I went to college, got my degree for elementary education, and I started working in public schools. Um, and I thought my desire as a teacher was I really wanted to teach the kids that nobody else wanted to teach. And I
Mm,
wanted them to know that there's an adult in this world that loves them. That was kind of, by the time they leave my classroom, whatever other knowledge they have is great, but that there's an adult in this world that loves them and will advocate for them.
mm,
Um, but through, actually, towards the end of college, I was talking with some friends kind of about that philosophy of education that I had. And they said, that sounds really Salesian. And I was like, I've never heard what? So what? I don't know what that word is.
yeah.
Um, and so they told me about the sisters. They had been taught by our sisters. And I kept that in mind, thinking, well, that sounds like a great environment to work in. But I didn't think I would be a sister. It was not on my radar. But
Wow. Yeah.
just the more I'd kind of have quiet moments of prayer, and there would be this little tug on my heart of maybe you should be a sister. And I ignored it and I said no. And I said, Lord, that's really nice that you asked, but I'm politely declining. Or you called the wrong girl,
Right.
all kinds of things, even to the point where it was every time I went to pray, I'd feel that nudge. So I stopped praying because I was like, if I've said no and you're not listening, so I'm going to stop talking to you.
Wow, Sister
Yeah, like
Katie.
I fought it, fought it, fought it.
Yeah.
And, but I was restless. I was anxious. Like life was good.
Mhm.
Everything about life was good, but I did not feel settled. I did not feel peaceful. I didn't feel completely fulfilled. So I had a friend that said, you know what? Just go visit some sisters. Just, okay, fine, I'll go visit some sisters. So I remembered the Salesian sisters that my other friends had mentioned. So I got in touch with the sisters. I was living in Florida and I had to come up to New Jersey to visit. And the whole plane ride, I was praying, God, please let me hate it. I wanted to say,
Wow.
like, I wanted to try it, but I wanted to hate it because I knew God wouldn't call me to something that I hated. That
Mhm.
what he calls us to is going to bring us life. And um, so I prayed, let me hate it. But when I came to visit the sisters, especially that first time, it was the first time in years that I went to pray and I didn't feel that anxiousness inside. I felt peace.
Mm.
And I knew enough that I was like, "Oh, crap." Like, now I
Oh,
have to
no.
do it. Yeah. So,
Oh,
yeah,
I
I
have
just
a
relaxed it.
responsibility now. This
Yeah.
is really here.
Yeah. So I fought it, but I will say, once I entered, that was it. I was all in and no looking
Mhm.
back because I fought it so much before I entered. And then it was really interesting too when I first entered and was learning the history of our sisters and about St. John Bosco and what we do. There was a priest that gave us a presentation on Don Bosco and the way that he taught kids. And I remember listening and thinking, that's what I do. Like, that's what I believed as like a public school teacher. That was the philosophy in my classroom. And I didn't have the same words that this priest had. I never could have put it together so neatly as he did. But as he was sharing, I was like, that's me. Like, that's what I
Wow.
did. And so
Yeah.
it was so affirming to hear, like, I'm in the right place. And this is the way that I want to reach out to young people to bring them closer to Jesus. Yeah.
Gosh, what a gift that is. And
Yeah.
it's interesting because, like, I love your sincerity and authenticity about fighting it because I think that's what we do,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
As the human ego, like, gets there, like, I see it looking this way.
Hmm.
So funny. One of my girlfriends said the other day, "Y God God does the how." You say you like, he does the how. It's not our job to figure out the how, but it's our
Right.
job to be open to the message and to hearing
Yeah.
what it is that we're being told. And I just I love the humility that you speak with when you talk about
Mhm.
that. And like I said, the authenticity about, you know, I anxiety. Life is good, but there's pieces that are like, "I don't wanna
Right.
do this, and this is not what I don't wanna like it. I'm gonna put my hands on my hips, and I'm gonna stand there
Yeah.
and go,
Yeah.
'No, no, 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 no.'" But in the end, like, what a gift, and I think the thing what I'm hearing you say, correct me if this is wrong, but I feel like what I'm hearing you say is that validation is such a big piece of who you are at the
Yeah.
core, and
Mhm.
maybe that's always been in you, and what a wonderful thing for everybody that the lives that you touch to be with you in that place where you can see them, where you can love them, where you can hear them, because that's such an integral piece of growth that so
Mhm.
many people, I think, may drive anxiety, is that we don't feel
Yes.
seen, we don't feel loved, we don't feel
Right.
heard. So
Right.
tell me a little bit about your experience, either personally as a teacher or now as a Salesian sister within the organizations that you work through. Tell me a little bit about what some of those transformations, maybe some of those examples, some of those harder challenges may be for you to meet some of the people that you're encountering that really need
Mhm.
them. What does that do for you? Where do you go with that? How do you kind of refill your well when you
Mhm.
like, I'm kind of drawing, I'm digging deep here, Lord. I'm
Yeah.
digging
Yeah.
deep and it's really hard today.
Yeah. Um, okay, so it immediately makes me think of a couple different things. I think one aspect is for me, I by personality, I'm an introvert. Like I recharge alone. And I do like people. Sometimes introverts get a rap of like not liking people. I like people. I
Yes.
just need time to recharge in between, you know?
Yeah.
So for me, our community life as sisters, like sometimes it's hard because I would rather be alone, right?
Mhm.
And sometimes I need to be alone. And so having a group of sisters around to talk with and keep up with and make sure I'm checking on them, like it can feel, I don't know, it doesn't feel heavy, but it's just like maybe not always what my preference would be.
Mhm.
But I also know without a doubt that it's those moments of connection and um giving myself in love to other people, to serve them, to reach out, to check in, and especially when I don't want to, those
Mm.
are the moments that are making me holy. Like that's what's helping me to grow in virtue and
Mhm.
to become holy. And so yeah, it's this element, and even in the classroom as a teacher, right? Those moments where there's a kid, who's really they're grinding on every nerve that you have. And
Right?
what you're everything you're trying to be loving, to be patient, to find out what's going on. What's the story behind all of this trouble? And it's
Mhm.
not working, and it's not in those moments where you stretch yourself to be loving, to reach out, to connect. That's where holiness is coming. I think a lot of times as a teacher, you don't know, you're working hard all day to try, and you hope you're making a difference, and you're praying and doing everything you can, but you really don't know how much of it's sinking in, how much of it's working. But I have a couple beautiful instances, but the first one that pops to my mind, I was a sister teaching high school in Naples, Florida. And there was a young man, he just was struggling. You saw it all over his face. He just was struggling. And
Mhm.
I had tried so many ways to reach out to him, to bring him in, to let him know somebody noticed, somebody cared, asked questions. And we would talk a little bit. He shared a little bit. His parents were going through a divorce and, all kinds of normal teenage stuff too, that's on top of all of that.
Right.
And but then, he graduated, moved on. It's didn't really stay in touch. And it was probably like 3 or 4 years later, I was back in Naples for an event, and he came, and when I tell you this kid, like, his whole face was different. He just was in a different place, and he came right up to me, and he said and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so happy to see you. I'm so glad you're here." Like, and it was something, it wasn't really his type of event to show up to. But he said, "I heard you were gonna be here." And I said, "I have to come so Sister Katie sees I'm okay." And that,
Oh,
like,
wow.
what she did, like, helped me, and, like, I'm okay now. And I mean, I started crying and
I'm
but
about to cry right now. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, but beautiful. And often as educators, we don't, when we get those moments that find out that what we did mattered,
Mhm.
they're beautiful. But they're, most kids, you don't find that out, you
Yeah.
just, you hope and you pray. Um, yeah. So those, and then to like refill myself,
Mhm.
I think for me, it's like I said, I'm introverted. So for me, like quiet prayer is the best. I
It's
love it.
perfect.
Yeah,
Yes.
I love it. And just, it's not always in the chapel. Sometime, most often it is.
Mhm.
But even times when I can, to be in nature and just reflecting on God's, even if I'm not sitting in front of a beautiful landscape, but just to reflect on God's goodness throughout the day.
Mhm.
Different ways that he answered prayers or gave his grace to me to get through a difficult moment. That's silent prayer for me is like where the gold is.
Mm. Oh, I
And
love
it's
that.
not, I, a priest told me once because I was feeling really bad. I would go in to pray and I like would sit in especially as a teacher, I'd sit in the chapel. It's the first time really I'm sitting all day. It's quiet. Boom, I fall asleep. Like
Wow.
I
Okay.
just that's like and I was feeling so guilty about it. I was like, I don't know what to do. Like
Yeah.
I can't. Like I'm so tired. I can't and I just like sleep. And he
Yeah.
was like, "Well, you know what? Sometimes, like when a doctor's performing a surgery, right? And they have to do real work to help heal you, they have to put you to sleep. Like they have to knock you out so they can actually do the work." And so he said, maybe sometimes that's what God needs to do too. Like just kind of get us to be quiet. Um, and so he kind of knocks us out. So
Sister
we
Katie, that's beautiful.
isn't that like comforted me so much and
Yeah.
to know because the Lord is working whether I'm aware of it or not, you know?
Right.
And
Right.
so that sometimes maybe there's some healing he's doing
Mhm.
in my heart and I just have to be quiet and out of the
Yeah.
way.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
will tell you this year, and actually into the end of last year, I started really intending, God, what's on my to-do list today? Because if I were to open up my
Mhm.
phone and show you my to-do list, one of my friends looked at it the other day and she was like, what is wrong? Like, that's overwhelming.
Yeah,
Like, okay,
yeah.
well, I gotta keep my thoughts in order. But I also have to put that to the side and say, all right, what is the most important thing that it just and interject it through me, allow it to be part of me. And sometimes it's taking a 20-minute power nap when I feel like I have so much other stuff around here to take care
Right.
of and
Right.
so many things to attend. But I have this time and I can sandwich this in that 20 minutes. And I love, 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 love you giving that example, your personal example, because I feel like that lets people off the hook. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
It's not black or white. You have the gray area to be able to find that connectedness. And we're all so unique and so individual that finding that gray area is the shades all through that color
Mhm.
scheme are so crazy and
Mhm.
we all find it where we need to find it. That's what I
Exactly.
found.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's
Yes.
difficult too. I want to go back a little bit. Letting go of control and letting go of the need to know what's going to happen. Like if we
Mm.
think about your experience and like I am vehemently opposed to becoming a sister. This is this is what I want to do. And it's down to the point where you stopped praying because you were done hearing the messages.
Yeah.
How do we, when we approach something from your experience with people around you, even with your own personal experience, how do we move through a place where we feel like I just don't want to do what I'm being called to do? It's
Mm.
difficult. This is
Mhm.
challenging. It would take me out of the driver's seat. I feel like I've got everything marked out on my little to-do list and how I want to do it. And I'm just going to fight that tooth, tongue, and toenail like a trout swimming upstream
Yeah.
nonstop. How do
Yeah.
we get out of our own way and allow
Yeah.
that message to come through? Like what do we do?
Yeah. I think I guess, for me, okay, so this is it's a little bit different for me because I'm a nun, right? And I have the structure that we have of a religious life. Like we have superiors in our community, right? Like people who are kind of in charge of they tell us like where our next mission's going to be, right? Like I was teaching high school and then they called and said, "We want you to take over the fundraising office that does adopt a sister. And I thought that was crazy. Why are you doing that? So, but I think it can apply to all people, that like what I've learned, especially through this experience of coming out of the classroom into the development office, is that there's grace in obedience. Like
Mm.
when I feel that God is nudging me towards something, even though I don't want it always, or it's not the way that I want it, right? I had pictured it one way, and now it's going to get me there, but it's not the way I wanted to get there.
Ooh, yeah.
Um, that God gives you that in following his inspiration, grace is poured out in that. And
Mm.
he gives you what you need. But I would say in addition to that, it's having really good, whether it's like a mentor or a spiritual guide or a pastor or a friend, like these people in your life that will surround you and will tell you the truth that you need to hear.
Mm.
Um,
Yes.
who can pray for you when, okay, it's hard, and just listen. But also sometimes, like it was a good friend that said to me when I was thinking about being a sister, like, stop complaining about it, just go visit some sisters, like, knock it off, you know? And
Yeah.
so we need people like that in our lives too, sometimes to, especially when we're being like really stubborn about something, like I
Mhm.
can be, that there's someone, yeah, good friends and community
Mhm.
along the way that can help redirect us.
Yeah, that community is so integral. I have found as I've aged that I mean, your community will ebb and flow.
Hmm.
And I think that there are times when communities are in our lives for seasons that are really important for us. And I know
Yes.
my entire household can totally, say absolutely that is completely true. But letting go, sometimes walking a different path to meet your
Yes.
next community can be really difficult. I love your words, following his inspiration. I love that phrase. When we follow his inspiration, that's when the grace and the unfolding can really happen.
Mm-hmm.
And when I hear that phrase, it just makes me think hope. Like it really, like as I'm
Yes.
sitting here right now, that makes me feel hope
Yeah.
for where I may be sitting, for the stuff that I may be dealing with. But if I hear the word inspiration, it's a lift, and it's truthful too.
Mm-hmm.
And that honest truth of surrounding ourselves with the honest truth of our lives is integral for being the best version of ourselves that we can be, because otherwise we are totally deceiving ourselves and then not living from the inspiration that we're being, that's being
Right.
imparted to us.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Gosh.
then wondering why it's so hard, or why we're not satisfied, or why it's frustrating. And yeah, I mean, I've done it. I've been there. I can tell you,
Mhm.
actually, just this week, we were reflecting as sisters, like the sisters that live together in this house. And I was sharing with them, like, we had Sister Mary, who passed away at the end of last year. She ran this office for over 30 years. And then I was coming in to learn from her and take over. So, with her passing, um, now, like, I look at different events, different tasks, different benefactors that I need to deal with. And I have found myself saying a lot, well, Sister Mary would know. Like, Sister Mary would know what to do. And as we were reflecting earlier this week, but really the thought came to me of like, she didn't always know what to do, right?
Yeah.
She was confused many times as well. But she was something that Sister Mary was masterful at, was she was attuned to the voice of God. Like,
Oh,
she was
yes.
so good at listening. And then, like, when a thought, because sometimes two people think in prayer, like, what do you mean you're listening to God, right? Like, what are
Right?
you hearing? What are you hearing? So, like, when just these little thoughts would pop in her head, or just these little ideas, no matter how small it was or how like simple it seemed, she'd go with it. She'd follow it. And like
Mm,
that's like those inspirations from God, right? Like just those moments where it's like, that person looks lonely. I should go over and say hi. And then you kind of say, well, I don't really have time for that right now. Let me get back to, and you ignore it, right?
yeah, yeah,
But like just to follow those little inspirations. And that's where God, he takes care of you. And so that was like a really good point of reflection for me of I don't have to know over 30 years worth of knowledge to do this job well. I
right.
just have to be attuned to the voice of God and the
Yeah,
little promptings that he'll
yes.
give me.
I want to talk a little bit about that because you bring up a really wonderful point here. When people ask you, what does that really mean? Listening to the voice of God and how,
Yeah.
or like in prayer, are you hearing it? Because if I think about your structure, like in a day in the life of Sister Katie
Hmm.
and the community that is surrounding you and the work that you do, I mean, you are immersed in it. But people
Hmm.
that are not immersed in your profession, if you will, are that are maybe struggling with something else and going, yeah, okay, great, Sister Katie, that's amazing. Like, but how do you, like, if I'm praying because I've had the worst day, I'm having a hard time making my mortgage, my car is broken down, my kids
Mm.
struggling in school, my mom just told me she has an illness that we're gonna have to deal with. I mean, you just compound all this stuff. And you want me to pray and listen to what God has to say. And
Yeah.
how am I going to hear that? Like, how
Right.
do we get out of our
Forget
own
it.
way? And what is that? Yeah, forget it. Like, what
Yeah.
are you talking about? What are you
Like you're
talking
not in
about?
the real world. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So let's talk a little bit about that because I think that bears so much witness in our world again about being present, being connected to something bigger than ourselves and outside of ourselves and ultimately faith. Faith
Hmm.
in that whole idea, if you will.
Hmm.
But listening and what does that really mean? And I mean maybe I just piggyback this on the fact that you're talking about Sister Mary and the ideas. You know, when you have a spark,
Yeah.
following it. Yeah.
Yeah. I think so something in our kind of our tradition and style of sisters, um it's this idea of an everyday holiness that God, so like I said before, of course I can encounter and pray and hear God when I'm sitting in a beautiful chapel and it's quiet and there's mood lighting and beautiful music, whatever. That's a good moment to encounter God. And I think those moments are good when we can schedule like a special sacred time. It's important. But we also believe and like really try to embody this idea of God is in the midst of whatever I'm doing. And so there's a St. Francis de Sales would say, like if you're a mother and you're cooking a meal for your children, that stove is your altar. Like that's the
Mhm.
place of your prayer. And that's where your sacrifice is offered in that moment.
Mhm.
And so I think for us, it's little practical things like before we start a task, just saying, so simple, like, okay, Jesus, this is for you. Or very, we're daughters of Mary, help of Christians. So we've got a great devotion to Mary, the mother of God, and like saying, okay, Mary, like pray for me. Like pray for
Mhm.
me as I go into this, just those little practical things that can turn a task that I have to do anyway into a moment where now I've opened just a little door where
Yeah.
God's voice can now come in and he can be a part of what I'm doing.
Mhm.
I think too, I've learned to become more intentional about like what I'm filling my mind with. So,
Yes.
like cleaning, right? Like cleaning my room or cleaning the whatever, the dining room, you're mopping and like, am I listening to music that's like uplifting? Am I listening to garbage? Like,
Mhm.
or am I listening to a podcast that's going to help me to reflect and better myself? Or am I just listening so that there's noise? You
Mm.
know,
Wow.
um,
Yeah.
I think kind of because what we're filling our minds and our hearts with in that silence is also what's going to make it easier for us to hear God or not
Yes. Yeah.
in those
Yeah.
really practical moments.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
inviting God into our regular, but you also know that the regular isn't always the regular, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. It can
So
be holy. Yeah.
yeah, every moment can be holy. Every moment can be that space if we are inviting. That's what I hear you saying. Even in the midst, it's finding those pieces. And I think that goes to even outside of just talking about faith and connecting with God through prayer is if we find a piece where we can open up even this much, it creates I talk about the 1%. If we can open up 1%, that gives 1% more. That 1% space is enough for a shift.
Right.
1% more is a space for an invitation, for a message. Um, I'm totally outing myself here. I used to, when my kids were home and they were younger and they were playing sports, and I would do their laundry and I was either hanging up their jerseys or folding them or changing them over. I would always say a prayer over their jerseys. I would say a prayer
Beautiful.
over them. Yeah, when I was either changing it over or hanging it up or putting it in their room or getting it, setting it wherever they need it to be for their next game or scrimmage or whatever is going on. And I feel like I don't know. I don't know because this is where you got to let go of the control. Like you don't know if that's really helping, but
Working.
why? Yeah, but is it for me to say this is work? You know what I'm saying? Is it for me
Hmm.
to really have that control of
Hmm.
this is working, or is it a belief, or is
Right.
it driven by faith, or how we move? It's so amazing. And I think that if we go back to that, inviting God into our regular to be able to open up that space, I love what you said about that because that is that 1% opening.
Hmm.
That is the invitation for us to hear what you talk about, Sister Mary, always hearing those little ideas.
Hmm.
And that's where I have found for me that goodness and different situations and opportunities have presented themselves when it's like, really?
Yeah.
Not really? What?
Like,
What?
like, oh no,
Yeah,
really?
really? You
But
want me to
yeah,
do that?
really. Like that's
Yeah.
and because too, I think you
Mm.
feel, at least I do, like in those moments, it's like like a that like tension inside of like, but there's never been a time where I've like kind of stretched myself in that moment of tension that I've been like, well, I'm really sorry I did that.
Oh, wow,
Every
yeah.
time it's something like even when you were talking about your daughter going to
Oh,
FCA
absolutely. Mhm.
and that like there's never a time that I've made a choice to like be in community or to be that afterwards I was like, well, now I feel worse. Like
Right.
no, it's always those are always the moments we grow and yeah, there's something that it always uplifts me, makes me
Mhm.
feel better or more energetic or just rejuvenated or a little more peaceful, whatever it is.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
moving through the tension. That's a great
Yes.
thought right there. It's moving through the tension. And someone said this too, when you're an archer, you're having to pull back and you're having to release. Like
Mm,
the flow of the increasing of the tension and then the release of the let go. Both of them are integral and so important in what it is
yeah.
that we do with our
Yeah.
decisions, with our intentions, with our faith, and what we're bombarded with. You know what I'm saying? Like what
Mhm.
we're bombarded with tension. We're bombarded with situations. We're bombarded with thoughts
Right.
that pulling back and that looking and reflecting upon it, and then the release of letting go so that the ebb and the flow can actually happen. When she said that, I was like, oof, you just
Mm.
let me off the hook on a big thing that I had been contemplating for like weeks. So yeah, thank you. But
Yeah.
it's how we learn, I think, is that connecting to people, that presence and that whole pull back and that release in everything that we do. I mean,
Mhm.
golly. Let's talk for just a little bit about Sister Mary, because I want to go back. Sister Mary was such a pivotal member of your community. And Sister Mary
Mhm.
passed away at the end of 2025. You cared for her intently in the last weeks of her life, in the last months of
Mhm.
her life with her cancer
Yes.
diagnosis, I know. And before we started recording, we were talking a little bit about her. And I really I want people to know that even though you're in a community where the structure for you is surrounded by this holiness and this wonderfully lovely sacredness, that there still is feeling and emotion around the loss of someone integral in your life, no matter what
Absolutely.
role that they filled. So talk to me about a little bit about how you guys have been doing as a community with
Mm.
this loss of Sister Mary, because when we saw her in 60 Minutes, I was like, I will do whatever you tell me to, because I'm that's like in the best possible way. Because
Yes.
it was such a force,
Yes.
best possible way.
Yes. Yeah, that's such a good description of her. Yeah, I think for us, for example, so yeah, I cared for her everything in every way in her last days of just being with her and attending to all kinds of physical needs. That was the first time in my life I had done that for somebody. I think sometimes mothers they're a little more used to it because they've done it, right? For their
Yeah,
babies, the feeding, the dressing, the all of that. But for me, that was the first time. And what an honor to be able to accompany her in that really precious time of her life, right? And when she was like so vulnerable, she was very sick. And um it just like the greatest honor of my life to be there and to make sure that she was well cared for. Um, and as a person of faith, and she had a deep, profound faith, she was really peaceful about dying. And the morning that she passed away, there was this gorgeous sunrise, gorgeous, like in the moments as she was taking her last breath, like the sky was just opening, like something I have not seen before. And I felt chills and I even felt like joy of like, go, Sister Mary, like heaven is coming to get you. Go. Right.
Mm,
But then in the same breath, I felt this like just emptiness of now she's gone. Right. So, um, we talk about her all the time. um, Thankfully, and in the Catholic faith tradition, we believe that she's in heaven and she can intercede for us, right? Like she can bring our prayers to God. So I'm asking her, just like I asked her for help and prayers when she was sitting across the desk from me, I ask her for those same things now. But it doesn't, even that hope and that joy, I think particularly for like nuns, it's really because our whole life is about being close to God. So like
right.
to die for a nun, it does carry a little more because it's finally like what we've been working for our whole life. Like now we're gonna get it, to be in
Yeah,
heaven.
yeah,
So
yeah.
there is a sense of like beauty and joy, but like you were saying, we're human beings. So, yeah, we talk about her all the time. There's times I sit and I just expect to like hear her coming into the office, you know? Um, or like I was sharing, I look at an issue and I think, gosh, Sister Mary would know what to do. Like what, how do, and just kind of feeling that you miss her
Yeah,
and you're sad that you miss her, you
yeah,
know?
yeah.
I'm not sad for her. I know I have a hope and a faith and an assurance that she is rejoicing and having, but she's working hard up in heaven. I'm sure she's working hard for us. Um, but yeah, there's moments people, I've always heard people talk about grief like that, like it comes in waves,
Mhm,
like you're fine. And
mhm.
then the next second, just like from nowhere, you're not fine.
Yeah, yeah.
And like, and yeah, that happens to us. And
It's real, and
yeah.
I think too that joy, interestingly, like when you were talking about the morning when she passed, that joy that she's getting ready to meet God
Yeah.
in this wonderful way, but the grief is still there for you as humans being left behind,
Mhm.
and the two things can commingle in the same
Yes.
bowl, if you will.
Yes. Yeah. They're not exclusive. It's not
Mhm,
because I'm happy that I don't feel like I'm missing something. I feel like
mhm,
I'm missing something, but also
mhm,
that doesn't mean that I don't think she's living in heaven,
mhm,
It's
mhm.
yeah, it's
It's
all
all intermingled.
together.
It's all in one big stew, and we can
Yeah.
have all those different emotions and feelings. And thank you for saying that because I feel too like obviously you're called to this higher to this mission that you're on right now, and you're still a human being. You
Mhm.
still have needs. You still have feelings. You still have emotions, and you still have these really deep reflective pieces of yourself that are a lot, that
Mhm.
you go through that you have to sort through as well,
Yeah.
just like anybody else would. I loved hearing you say that. It was such an honor to attend her in her last days. I just
Mhm.
what a beautiful testament to being comfortable in your own skin and
Mm.
being her and you. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Both of you. How do you feel like if we look at the society as a whole, and if you're talking about young people, let's go back a little bit to the Salesian Sisters overall, kind of your mission
Mhm.
and in working within the youth. If you look at them as a piece overall, do you think that we're missing those aspects of that feeling comfortable in our own skin and being okay with being our authentic selves? And how do you know, obviously seeing, hearing, and listening, and really validating those individuals is so beneficial. But like breaking through, like the student in Naples, the high school student,
Mhm.
who we don't necessarily know, but it's just it's such a driving force, I believe, behind your mission. So let's talk a
Mm.
little bit about what that looks like for you on a daily basis and what it is that the Salesian Sisters do to help gain and garner that kind of authenticity within that young community by character, faith, and that social responsibility, all three wrapped in.
Mhm. Mhm. Um, I think, I mean, wow, that's a that's deep. I think part of the way that we get there, um, it's almost like for me, okay, so for me personally, I think part of what had me fighting being a sister was I had this view that sisters are super holy people. And
Okay.
I looked at myself and thought, like, I want to be holy, but I
Yeah.
struggle, right? Like, I
Yeah.
make
Yeah.
mistakes, I screw up, yeah, like I'm impatient. Sometimes things slip out of my mouth that, are not kind or whatever it is. And so I think I had this view that I had to be a certain way in order to be a sister. And then learning, like, no, God wants me for who I am with my strengths and my weaknesses. Because if I had it all together, I wouldn't need him. Right. And
Mm,
so learning that for myself and trying to be really intentional about being authentic in that way with the young people that I served, that I did not want to be a sister that stood in front of the classroom that they felt like, well, she doesn't get it. Like she doesn't know what it's like to be us.
yeah.
So I tried to be really honest with them about who I am and
Mhm.
not, um, yeah, just to share an authenticity of,
Mm.
yes, sometimes I struggle. Sometimes someone says something rude to me and I want to be like, shut your mouth, but
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't,
yeah.
or sometimes I make the mistake and I do. And like what that doesn't mean that God can't use me also for something good. So, I think trying to model that authenticity for young people is something that I have been really intentional about, to show that we're real, we're on a journey, and that there's holiness still in that and not being perfect. Um, and I think our young people today, you know, oh my gosh, I've seen even from the time I started teaching till like I left the classroom last year, like how much it's in the teenage brain very much to care about what their peers think.
Correct. Yes.
But I think how much that has been exacerbated over an increased use of social media and where things are so magnified and people's
Mm,
opinions and um, these perfect snapshots are what are put out to the world.
mhm.
And then all this comparison starts happening internally. So that was something, just real conversations with the kids about, eh, like, that's not real life.
Right, right.
And that what is real, eh, is that God meets you in kind of the mess
Yeah.
and walks with you there.
Yeah.
That, yeah, when I have it all together and I'm perfect, and that's something, gosh, Sister Mary did so beautifully for us as she was sick, that she let us help her. And how
Mm.
beautiful. And there was never once that I looked at her and was like, I can't believe you can't get up the stairs by yourself. What the heck? You need my help again? No,
Yeah,
like every time I was like, let me help you. Oh my gosh, this is nothing more than I wanted than to help her. And I think parents feel that way with their kids, right? And so,
absolutely.
um, I just imagine how much more God feels that way when he looks at us, that he's not frustrated that we don't have it all together, that he's not like, "Ugh, you need my help again." No,
Mhm,
it's his honor to be called on
mhm.
and to help us. And I'm not sure I really answered your question,
No, it was
but
beautiful because I think what I'm hearing you say is that vulnerability lives in that space.
yes.
And when we can be vulnerable and allow God to help us, that's real vulnerability. That's
Yeah.
really allowing ourselves. I'm going to go back. God wants you for who you are. God wants you for who you are. I love that statement. It's so true because,
Mhm.
like you said, if everything was great and hunky dory in your life, I mean, okay, do you really? Yeah, okay, great.
Yeah.
God, yeah, okay, see, okay, you go over there. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So even in our struggle, in our suffering, we still being vulnerable and showing up and allowing him to assist us is such a huge piece. And it's such a metaphor for what you're talking about with, Sister Mary. She was vulnerable enough to allow you to help her,
Mhm.
and I think if we look at that from a magnified aspect where God consciousness is concerned for us as a
Mhm.
people, then I mean, that's a really interesting way to kind of
Mhm.
frame it. And
Mhm.
again, God wants you for who you are.
Mhm.
Whether you're kicking and screaming through it or not.
Exactly. Exactly.
Sometimes hard. Oh my gosh. Well, tell us how we can get involved and how people can adopt a sister, how we can support the Salesian Sisters as a whole community and dive into really being there within this organization.
Okay, well, so if you, we have our website, salesiansisters.org. On there, for sure, there's a tab where you can find out more about the Adopt a Sister program. You see some of that news segment that Sister Mary was on. But basically, it's Adopt a Sister. It's you give an annual gift. And like you said before, where you're assigned a sister, that sister prays for you. Some people love to talk to their sister quite a bit. Some people don't want to talk to a sister, but they want to know someone's there praying. So it's kind of all of that we can work with and try to help get you what you're looking for. And yeah, we're on Instagram. We're also at Salesian Sisters. I think we're on TikTok too, but we don't post on TikTok as much.
Right.
Um,
Okay.
and then I'll throw out mine. I'm Sister
Please.
Katie on Instagram too. And there's actually a great video. Sister Mary and I made it together last fall. It has something like 8 million views. Ridiculous, ridiculous.
I love it.
But it's a hilarious video. We had so much fun making it. We were dying. Anyways, Sister Katie on Instagram.
I can't wait to check it out. Yay!
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Well, thank you guys so much. Thank you, Sister Katie, for being here. I say you guys because I feel like there's so much presence
All
around
of
you.
us together. Yep.
Yeah.
It
I mean,
is.
it's such a profound thing. And like I said, before we ever started the record today, I just feel so connected in a way with your organization in a way that is, it's meaningful. What you're doing is meaningful in the community, and not just for the youth, but for everyone as a
Yeah.
whole. And
Yeah.
living that authentic path and just being who you are called to be and standing in that and showing the humanity behind it and the humanness behind it.
Mm-hmm.
That's what really connects me to people. That's what really shows me that presence is possible, even in the midst of my chaotic day and my suffering and my struggle,
Mm-hmm.
because it's possible to be vulnerable and it's possible to be connected because God wants us to be who we are.
Yeah.
Amen.
Beautiful. I love it.
Oh, yeah. Well, Sister Katie, stay warm in New Jersey. I know it's
I'll
chilly out there
try.
today. Golly.
I
And thank you
know.
so much. And I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, wonderful rest of your week. And I think I'm going to make a trip to North Halden, New Jersey at some point.
Yes, come visit.
Mhm.
We'll have
I
a
will.
party.
I can't wait.
Yes.
But I'm coming in the summer when there's no snow on the
Smart.
ground.
It's beautiful here in the summer. Come on over.
That's what
We'll
I
take
will
you.
absolutely. Thank you so
Yeah.
much, Sister Katie.
Thank you, Dawn.